Welcome to Beer. What a fantastic venue this is. Beautiful here. We're going to take a deeper look at this South Devon Mark. I want to show you what rocks you might want to work your lures from, how to find your way down to the beach, and of course avoid the holiday crowds. We'll be having a look at what lures you might select and ways of avoiding the dreaded weed as I cast out from various spots into some of the cleanest UK water I've ever seen. Looks like you've got some sort of sea fishing trips here, and you can see water's quite calm. We're going to move over to those rocks that you've seen from there to get down before everyone arrives on the beach, you know, in summer. See what that water clarity's like. I'm going to start off with this big pachinko. Not really, because I think it's the right lure, but sometimes a big lure like this, we'll just see if we get any rises. I'm going to flick it out as we walk along the beach here, just to see if anything comes up. And I'm going to head across those rocks, right round there. It's more of a drag. You just got to keep that line tight, because if a fish takes it and it's slack, you get all sorts of problems. I want to be keeping the line off the sea, going straight down onto the lure, and then you can just retrieve like this. Just a fastish retrieve. Don't worry about the bass, they'll pick up on it if they're there. So. You just got to make sure, obviously, you don't get cut off by the tide. Just keep an eye on this corner. We do have a flooding tide. I'm just going to walk through there in a minute, but just show you this bit here. Look. Walking around. Worth remembering, of course, that this is really calm conditions. You do not want to be anywhere near these rocks when it's blustery, southwesterlies are pushing in on the beach. Seriously, it could be absolutely lethal getting cut off by the tide here. Cracking rod, this one. This was sent to me by Drift. It's a little bit heavier for what I use down in Sussex. It'll actually cast up to 50 grams. That's fine with this big pachinko. Change the pachinko for this little drift lure, drift shad. If you are new to lure fishing, this is a soft plastic. We've actually got a guide, you can watch it there, all about soft plastics. But this will go underneath the water. This is a sinking, so it's got that little lead head there. You retrieve it and it lifts up. The lure we've just used is a surface lure. Now I know a lot of you out there know that, but there are a lot of people now turning to this way of fishing. It's a great way to fish. If you look at the line of seaweed there, you can see it's a good guide. The seaweed stops obviously when you get to high tide. The tide gets up to there, leaves the seaweed. And you can see there's different levels, and that's obviously because the tide height changes. The last high tide was that one there, and this one's here, which means the tide's falling back down. We're right on high tide here, obviously being careful not to get cut off. These are quite soft and do come apart quite easily. So a couple of casts. I'm going to change this. You can super glue heads, but I always think as soon as you super glue in a head, just change the lure. We'll change that too. We do have a few choices in the box here. Let's have a... What I'm looking for is, not you, not you. There are these type of lures as well, these dark sleepers, worth a go. I'm going to go back to this surface lure, a little bit like a popper. This is a spitting wire, a Zeros. The only conditions I'd come this far around would be in an ebbing tide in really calm conditions. Well, again, a little bit quiet here. There's a lot of weed in the water. We might have to overcome that if we're going to catch today. I don't mean a lot of weed in terms of big Irish storm beach, but it's enough to make the lures misbehave a bit. Do with some, nice waves rolling in really. It's not what you want in the chalky bottom of Sussex. But here it's going to be clear even if the waves are coming in. When it gets going it's working really well, the tide, but it's picking up all that weed, so I think we're going to change. I'll change to something different. Although one option could be one of these soft plastics here, I'm just going to try I'm going to try that first. Tuck that hook in there, give that a go. Getting a lot of weed still on that head. So I'm going to try one of these X layers. This is unweighted. You can see they've just got a normal hook. The point of the hook goes in the top of the. This is weightless. It's got a big hook on there. Normally I would tie that with a Rapala knot. I'm going to use a little lure clip because I don't know the venue. I'm chopping and changing these lures. It's never a good sign. And the eye of the hook just goes onto the link, and that's it. So hopefully that'll find its way through the weed. There's actually a lot less weedy here, a little bit further round, so I can probably change the type of lure if I need to. Keep going on the X layer in this bit here. It is a bit less weedy at the moment here. So. With these X layers I just stay in contact with it. They're quite buoyant. They you give them a little touch and they come up to the surface. Just staying in touch with it. The tide is coming in rapidly, so you've got to allow yourself a little bit of time to get out. I've never caught them on it, but mullet love rotting seaweed. Look at all these flies and creatures that live in this, and this can be great food for the fish. When it comes up, obviously the tide washes up on the bigger tides, and they'll probably feast on little bugs and stuff in here. More for fly fishing really. Well, I've just gone past one of the local fishermen down there. He said there's no fish here, they've all gone. I said I'm beginning to think that's the case. I sometimes think coming really early morning or during the night it's got to be the best bet, especially with all the tourists on the beach. That sounds like an excuse. Let's have a look here. At the other side now, giving us access to a little bit more deeper water. I might actually swap round and put some mackerel lures on here. Just look how clear that is. It's almost too clear. Put on these little mini Hawkeye lures. Let's see if there's any little mackerel around. Instead of a weight, I'm going to use one of these rather than a weight, and then the sabikis on there. Just to, I mean, I don't want a string full of anything, but it is something a little bit different. Never seen it this clear in the UK ever. So if you have fished here and you want to give anyone some ideas of, it's always worth just casting in and around those. Voiceover on this. This is a Shimano Flash Boost lure. And particularly at night, if you're fishing lures at night and you're replicating what the bait fish do, they just sort of sit in the water and not do very much at all. Now this is one of my most successful lures. It's brilliant, but even out of the box, it's not sitting dead parallel, is it? It's either nose heavy, sometimes a little twitch will make the tail go down. So I just really wanted to show balanced lures using different size hooks and weights at different places, so they'll sit horizontally in the water. And looking through this footage is something I might have to do, I think. Really only applies more when you're not retrieving them so much at night, replicating those more lazy bait fish that are almost sleeping. And when I did look back on this as well, can you see the sand eels there? I think there's sand eels in the background. So there were some fish there. Another option, the Savage Gear metal. You can get all sorts of different metals. They're not a bad option for around here. But this will flutter in the water rather than sort of sink. So it gives us another option. You can change out those treble hooks for singles. When you look to the west there, you can see that's Branscombe Beach. Beer affords a bit of protection really with those cliffs either side. It's quite a rarity to have chalk cliffs here, I think. It's the option of fishing Seaton as well, which is further round. You've got the river mouth there, and actually a little bit further round on the other side. Some good bass grounds apparently as well, so lots of options here. You've really got to tell someone where you're going and make sure you fish with a friend. I'm going to add a bit of weight to the fly. There's either a garfish or a bloody great launce, which is a greater sand eel, and I did feel a little hit like that earlier, so let's keep going with this metal, you never know. Perhaps a single hook might help it. They've got little beaks. Hit the scum line for the garfish, that's where you'll find them. But that was great, yeah, there was a couple there. Just going to have a surface lure, and this is a little dropper to drop down. A bit unorthodox. Popper on the top, and then this should float down. Might be more enticing for these launches that I keep seeing here. Well, hopefully this guide will get you started if you're fishing in this area. And we've got some more as well. Top left there is when we went to Babbacombe out in the kayak. On the right is a trip to Seaton, and the bottom left there is Teignmouth, around by the Shaldon Bridge. So thanks ever so much for watching. Now do check out those other videos if you're wanting to do some sea angling down in South and East Devon.